importance of senses in selling, but they're doing it with science. Gerald Zeltman is a professor of marketing at Harvard Business School. He makes a study of how our brains process information from vision, touch, sound, and smell.
The senses are important partly as a source of metaphor for us. They have great meaning. But the importance from a retail standpoint is, I think, best illustrated by the answer to a simple question is, why do we have senses? Why do we have the capacity to smell, to touch, to hear, to see, to taste? And the answer is to understand our world. And we're just beginning to understand how to engineer sensory experiences in a retail setting.
The first technique used by retailers to set a mood in stores was music. In trendy fashion stores, loud pop music sends out a signal that fits the brand message of the company. Whereas in a supermarket, the music is designed to slow you down, relax you, and keep you there longer. Scientists are now discovering that smell may influence buying behavior more than previously thought. The reason is our brain processes smell more quickly than the other senses. Smell is the new frontier in retailing.
The sense of smell is important to retailers for a number of reasons. Not only does it register in our cerebral cortex, this is a good smell, this is a smell of something fresh or not, but it registers first and most powerfully in our emotional brain, or emotional areas of our brain, where a judgment is made faster than a thought, unconsciously. And because it acts so quickly in the areas where unconscious thought lives, it has a major influence on our behavior, how long we want to stay in the store, whether we find it energizing or sleepy, whatever. It does so in a way that's less conscious to us. So smell has become, in an evolutionary sense, very important. It's one of the earliest things that we detect. To go from the nerve endings in our nose directly to the emotional part of the brain requires something like 3 or 4 jumps, in contrast to a touch requiring maybe 1,000.
Because smell is such an abstract sense, very little work had been done on how it affects buying, until a recent study in Pullman, Washington, by Eric Spangenberg.
One of the things that really came out of our first series of studies was that a store could distinguish itself in some way using scents.
Professor Spangenberg tested 2 kinds of scent. Firstly, the sweet-smelling vanilla, and then a scent called Rose Maroc, which has a slightly spicy aroma.
The Rose Maroc was the scent that was identified in our pre-testing as more appropriate to masculine subjects, and it was evaluated more positively as an environmental scent that men would like. On the other hand, vanilla is the scent that we identified for more appropriate for women.
Professor Spangenberg set up his experiment in the menswear section of a clothing store in Pullman. Over a period of 15 days, he tested the scents and how they affected the buying behavior of the people who came into the store.
We found that men evaluated the store more positively under the male scent condition. We found that they evaluated the merchandise more positively. We found that they were more likely to return to visit the store. They spent more time in the store. And perhaps most importantly, from a retailer's perspective, they spent more money. Indeed, in some instances, up to 350% more.
It sets a mood. And there's a process, phenomenon called synesthesia, which has to do with one sense invoking another sense. And so a fragrance might make a particular scene, visual scene, more attractive. So there's evidence that the right fragrance could cause a store environment to be seen as more pleasing because of the way the fragrance interacts with vision. And the same thing with audition. Sound and smell also can interact.
Everybody uses music everywhere now, and we've come to expect it. And I think that perhaps diffusing smells in the retail environment could be the Muzak of the new millennium.
For retail anthropologist Paco Underhill, the visual experience is still the most important. This starts the moment the customer walks through the doors.
We call this a landing strip or a decompression zone. It's where we're downshifting from fourth to third to second. It's where our eyes are adjusting to changing light and our peripheral vision is expanding. Part of what a good store is, a good mall is tuning its communication systems to the physical aspects of how we move and how we see.
Like his American contemporary Paco Underhill, Simon Scammell-Katz investigates how people move around the store environment. This time he's in a supermarket in the UK.
What happens when people come into stores is that they need to assimilate the new environment they've just entered. So quite often what you see from the eye movement is a navigational scan. And it takes them some time to actually adjust to being in the new environment. So they'll come in for 2, 3, 4, 5 meters before they switch into the fact that they're now into the store. And it's only at that point that they then start to realise, recognise and engage with the environment they're in.
Closed-circuit TV cameras are now a familiar sight in stores. For security reasons, they're everywhere. But there's another kind of observer. Consultants like Scammell-Katz are filming our every move, analysing our shopping behaviour and selling that information to the manufacturers whose products are vying for our attention.
We study the way that shoppers behave in stores. And the way that we do that is to typically film them. And that allows us to understand what people do, what they actually do, and why they do it, why they make the certain decisions that they make. About 80% of the decisions that people make in store are made subconsciously. So using traditional research techniques, exit polls, focus groups and so forth, only give you a real surface covering of what actually happens in the store.
The supermarket is an intensely competitive place. There are only so many customers with only so much money. For the manufacturer, the trick is to make sure it's their product that ends up in your shopping trolley.
The biggest jobs are the supermarket jobs. We have loads of those, and we track people going around the store, generally looking at how they shop. We'd have anything up to 60 cameras in that store with a cameraman operating it, or we would have fixed cameras as well. It could take 40 minutes to film them shopping around the store. It would take me 6 hours to watch it, and it's generally every movement that they're doing, we're writing it down. And we would just have different codes for different actions that they actually do around that store.
In this study, the supermarket has asked them to evaluate the layout of dairy produce. A brand of yogurt which particularly appeals to children has been placed on a shelf too high for them to reach.
What we learned from this was because of the 25% of the selections were made by children, and because of that, we've brought all the children's products lower down so that they're easier for children to make that interaction, read the packaging, and actually make the selection themselves.
For a manufacturer, it is crucial that your brand is in the right place, in the right aisle, on the right shelf. It can make the difference of millions of pounds, and a manufacturer will go to extraordinary lengths to get the right position. Today, Scammell-Katz is working for a British snack manufacturer called Walker's. They're the brand leader. He needs needs to find out if the potato crisps are in the best position in the supermarket. And to do that, he is using a unique piece of equipment called an eye mark recorder.
Don't worry about your ears. Do you think anybody's looking at your ears now? Put this on your head. No.
The origin of the equipment is actually from some work that was done for NASA for the layout of the cockpit of the shuttle. You have a lightweight helmet that contains a tiny TV camera, and then cleverly reflected into the cornea of the eye is an infrared beam. That infrared beam tracks the movement of the cornea, and that track, a bit like a radar, is then superimposed onto the view from the scene camera. So I have a picture of, as my head moves around, what I'm looking at, and then superimposed onto that is a white dot that jumps around, and that's actually what I'm looking at.
For this experiment, Scammell Cats chose 2 guinea pig shoppers and used the eye mark recorder to follow their eye movements as they walked around the supermarket. He didn't tell them what he was trying to find out. Manufacturers have discovered that the best position to have your product is in the middle of the aisle on the eye-level shelf. That's because customers move more quickly when they turn the corner into the aisle. It's only when they reach the middle that they're able to give their full attention. Scammell Cats found that the crisps were in the middle of the aisle but not on the right shelf. They say in the business that eye level is bi level. Traditionally, it's been believed that eye level is level with the eyes, and that's where the crisps were displayed. Scammell Cats believes it's actually the shelf below.
Traditionally within the industry, eye level was seen as being level with one's eyes, and what we've learnt from the eye mark recorder is that we naturally look between 15 and 30 degrees downwards. So in fact, eye level is down here, and it's not up here. We naturally look downwards. It's an effort to actually look up to what was traditionally seen as eye level.
It's very interesting. It's very in-depth. You don't realise quite what goes into thinking about a store layout and what would make you possibly buy a product other than the price.